The Boarding School and Cushman Project, the Puyallup Tribal Language Program. This video was put together by the Puyallup Tribal Language Program to bring awareness to events that transpired on the Puyallup Tribal Reservation. This video is intended to educate our community about the real history that occurred on this land to our people. You will find our history of factual events is much different than the history shared with the general public. We are sharing our story to add to your understanding of our people, coming from our own voices.
O hoialta chas a tis schalatsu go gwalachtwa tis wilsu yaf tis siaya yaf tis shadchas o hoyudas tis Cushman chalalt is o shabab ild a tis gwas pasted.
Stories from students, patients, and staff. St. George's Indian Boarding School, Cushman Indian Boarding School, Cushman Indian Hospital and Sanatorium, Puyallup Reservation. Written by Amber Sterud Hayward. Lashutsi translation by Zalmai Aswali Zahir. Olala olubaf chas ata Cushman. Huitlabak stab tis hat siatsab golo o shabab ildub atis Cushman tis ka atsis tabuch. Huitlakea tis siatsab toch asqh quatis lala olb atis ka atsis tabuch yaftis pasted yaftis is quok to Yayus alta Cushman. Hui quis chak chas quiguas balets. Hi o chach to booslid chas tebit sutaf chalap. Hek tad chach. Hui guadzas chasas chach de boot. O shabab fil de boot. Huitwads abshidaf tis kalab o shabab ild atads walach. Huiaf gwadzo huishid atidafot alalex. Gola assista gwalsu hexut chas tas atsis tabuf atis gwas chod chas. Twoshotzid yaftis ala los chas. Hi, olala olubaf chas. Atis Cushman, atis chod, o tebit sutaf, twatiso chasotzid shitab chas. Amber Sterud Hayward seed stat. Spoyalapabs chud yaftis salish. Olala olub chud atis Cushman. Tu Yayus chud altas lala olb ali atis spoyalapabs twa cheat ataparats zaladub as quo atsi to Judy right. Duf lala olb atis shachas. Altids la Yayus, altis la olb ali, o quasa lek chud atas la olb a Cushman. O beque tub chud at si to Judy right, at tids o gwed, tis lok to all buck duf chad all to United States, to all to Cushman chalalt, all to Cushman chasalt. Ka atzatzil tabuch tidzo chod bid. O que ad tub shogwa altisa chod. O up hogwa twa tid ucid. Odzalacha bichad hogwa al til all alls. O suit til quiquad, tus o yutsubs hogwa twa quiquat. Til siatsub tidzo chod bid al tis lachel gwa to a til tals chod a til tu a al to Cushman o chod bidad. Tas chod a til o och twa te chalaut yaf til fus chal a til chalaut yaf til tu yayus al to Cushman. Putaf od so til lok o tatabub chas. Glob chad gwa ched ti siatsubs hogwa o gwasadad. O bekwe tabchas a til bak sadil. A quigwa siatsub chas. A til so siatsub tubuls hogwa. Af suit til quiquad sadil. Huitla as qh ti siatsubs. Toch al ti so tubshad chas ti bak siatsubs hogwa. Hoil chas a sof tash ti siatsubs. Tu a til du qalb khalaut alta fife. Gwal St. George's Indian Boarding khalaut ti tu stas. Al tidzo quathad o chod bichad ti dutch o stobsh tu a al to St. George's gwal dil ti so sots. Tu klu tsots til sisters. O wili is chad qui luds lidos. Tu klud quapad. Gwasak alektab shawiotsu twa quiguas gulalds. Tu klud chafatab til wiotsu o fasel a til pit. Gwal klu chagwil basht. Zaloch a til de adi. As slidabats a til sagwidats a te as fasel. O chod bichad si dutch o sladai. Tu a al to Cushman chalaut. O suit, sabake alti sali, guati fuitguaso loads. Suit, sayaf kalub. Altiso klachads til badadas. Fue quiguas tuckads shashugl alta alls. Alice Guajadeo alta Guadalaut o gak ti shugl. Sutaf si badach o sladai tu baalaf ata Cushman chalaut. Sayaf o pastadildub atil Cushman chalaut. Gualadilaf put lup alel debut altis laklachads til badadas. O ched til badadas. Cholab atil tu chetubs atil chalaut. Putaf klu hatlid til alls. Gwa il hatl til pets. Gwasat abas atil tala ilts. Ad si dutcho tuds haidf. Tu klu bush altil shugl ali atil Puyallup siayu salt o quadachibus alti lockbeads. Al Dutch os lache od suit, clu hoi assista, guati tu clu ebash assista alta Cushman chalot. Leo af shawiotsu alta slach, guala tebutsu, twagwas elagwils, alta lelod, sha labochad tis chalot. Clu quadub halgwa, guala bulkt. Saba ab shitab tis wiotsu atis siayayas, atis abadab. Clu ab shitab tis wiotsu to'o Alaska ata chus ata quadis. Clau ba ab shitab ti wiotsu ati quagwab dalisad. Gwagwa kwashitab halgwa ashas khal yafsha tala yafshas abadab atis yalabs. Toch fui guaslas quadfs halgwa guati fui guaslas ab shitab atis suf yayus a Cushman. O petit guasab halgwa as khed quida fui guaso khalshitabs atis siayayas. Ab sof cha'a tis wiotsu clu ab tagwil. A tis be bada yaf ti pish yaf tis kobai gwo clu da'ad halgwa. Clu quadshitab atadacho to all ti badacho atasaf cha'a gwo hui guaso kalabils halgwa. Tu clu och halgwa twalta quaditsu dalt abilt Catholic gwa abilt Protestant. La chequitab tis wiotsu twalquiguas guahab ata la pli asha Protestants. Clu latlabad halgwa shas khalatsut alta auditorium gwa clu hoya lake. Tu ka tis lali di adi all alta khasalt. O da'ad halgwa wards. Ward A ti'ish twal tis stobsh wiotsu. Ward B ti'ish twal tis stobsh luglugwub. Ward C ti'ish twal tis wiotsu as khash gwa o hali il dub. Ward D ti'ish twal tis putaf as khash wiotsu gwa tilab tiso hali il dubs. Dis ti wiotsu od satlabats yaftis sus quichitabs yaftis as khash atiso taq dubs. Ward E ti'ish twal tis sadai wiotsu. Tilab qualach aptab tis wiotsu altiso slachils halgwa khalab atis pasted tob shudded. Clu qo halgwa atis wiotsu twal tiso quichitabs alta qayok tonsillectomies yaftis skotab toko bali. Guaslachab tis wiotsu twal tis o e tuts. Guahuit guaso chod ati quiquad wiotsu. O chod bichad si nurse tu yayus alta chasalt. Sutaf tu talchtab tis dafas chash Totiso quasa lex, atil so chedus, atil saf o hali ils. Tu chalat suit beat hogwa, yaftil stuff as chash, qual o dugwood, al til saf as o alis. Tu yayus til ka nurses, alta chasalt, qual o lahaiduf, qual o shout. Huitla ka nurses, o chelech halgwa altis World War II. Tol buk duf chad tis nurses, assista a Germany, yaf France, gwa ahaf, tis atsil tabuf nurses. Tu chetab a tis occupational therapist, tis wiotsu, a tis shag, gwa chokod, gwa kwadachi, gwa khalad. Tluhoyutub a tis wiotsu, tis sali stabigus. Tluhoyub a shadacho, gwa quad halgwa shabadacho. Ati dacho as chas, gwa cho a al tis pets, gwa la chetzelub. Hoyo ti is hats lakbid, a tis lahaidufs, tis so hoyuds, quish hoyus. O chod bid chad ti bada a ta doctor tu yayus alta chasalt. Suit, labak each itab a tis bads, tis wiotsu, al tis qayoks, bak slachel. Bequetab a tis bads, gualat labadas, tis so quichids, lisal tis fulat busad, shugs al tis quich adi. A tis wiotsu, gual o sugs tis yalabs, twa hak. Chasas chach halgwa, guati fuitwas klabuts halgwa, as ched tidaf o sugs tis yalabs at a hak. Alba uktub tis lali wiotsu a tis o hali eldub to all tis ishads. Sabahak tis a tis wiotsu alta chasalt gwa huit gwa so softash halgwa tis yalabs o ukts. Slalak o halgwa a tis siayayas al tiso toks. Gwasla chek abid tis ashads yof tis globe nurses alta Cushman. Sutaf tis tsauk. Sala och tub halgwa, twalta chasalt, gwala quichid, tis tonsils, gwa acid ata schasab, gwala tokt. Chek bitab a tis sufyayus ata Cushman tis wiotsu, to all Alaska yaf Navajo. Huitgwa so pastorot sidubs halgwa, ata hats, gwala chetz ilaf. Huitgwa so haidob atis Alaskan atsis tabufs, chad quigwas och, atis badadats, altiso quadubs, atiso hali ilduf. Sala och twa Cushman, chasalt, gwal sala och, tis is quok. Twalta chasalt alta Oregon. A bill gwa atabud sha Alaskan atsil tabuf alta Cushman chasalt gwalo pudtub halgwa alta skayuhali a Puyallupabj altiduf a as qalachadich. Huitwaso yutsubtub til siaya atil budas o ata buk patab. Gwa atil balali gwa huit latala twa quigwas tokts til ski kayu. Al ti Dutch o slache o such al ti Dutch o Alaska siaya twa tid siayu sadi. Gwa o wele quates gwa haidufud gwa patabas sil siayas alta Puyallup skayu hali. Tu atabud alta Cushman. Aidufshid chad halgwa at sil tu siayas alta skayu hali. Hoi shidaf halgwa sil tu siayas atil chakla. Gwa o global debut ti siayaya atisas haidufs chad tiso puds. Cludzalacha bitagwil halgwa altil squas di adis alta Cushman gwa yaya bitagwil halgwa twabuk ashali. Talchadaf halgwa til earphone radios gwa tatabab halgwa khalab atil saf khod. Kwashitagwilaf halgwa atas khal alta flop butlid lithal ta khalab. Gwasa shadal debut halgwa gwala hadeo zufbid atiso hayads. Ads kudtub ataka at sil tabuf til east sil chugwash alta Cushman. Bulkwaf til ka at sil tabuf twa Cushman twa siayus a nurses duf hat lead duf all da leaslid assista ati. Ahaf til skayu kwas alta Cushman gwalas cheche. Labdufaf halgwa ladach shasaf gwadil gwala gakad gwala takad ti elevator gwalod faf halgwa shawil tsu o talawil alta shugs ali. Tsutaf til ka at sil tabuf. Huigwas baochs twa til doctored, twa til dentist, lockbead a Cushman chasalt, altis la lok ills. Gwa ti lach dufaf halgwa ti so ched tubes al Cushman. Each eid, saslid, ether, needles, stoljaf, so dolch, x-rays, ahil, bib chagwil, cod liver schus, chagwiled alta tibu, assista ati. O chasal chach quiquad at sil tabuf, atiso beked ti Cushman all. Gwala ahaf til as chasal chach, as cheche altiso box, twalta all, altiso lokils halgwa. Tas chod atil o och, twalta chalalt, yav til dafas chal, atil chalalt, yav til tu yayus alta Cushman. Huiquis chak chal, quiguas balits. Hoyaf chal. Twa Gwalapu, de Isha, de Siaya Chalup. Amber Sterud Hayward Seed Stat, Spoyala Pops Chud. Uyayush chud, twaltis boyala pabsh, altis la olubadi, yapti toshot siradi. Good day to you all, my friends and relatives. My name is Amber Sterud Hayward, and I am a Puyallup Tribal member. I work for the Puyallup Tribe, formerly in the Historic Preservation Department and currently in the Language Program. You just watched stories from students, patients, and staff, St. George's Indian Boarding School, Cushman Indian Boarding School, and Cushman Indian Hospital and Sanatorium. This video shares the first-hand stories from those who experienced living, working, and attending the boarding schools and Indian Hospital on the Puyallup Reservation in Pierce County, Washington. In the previous video, we went over a timeline of events that transpired in U.S. history during the assimilation of Indian children. In this video, you're hearing stories from our people about what happened to them during this time. I'd like to walk you through a personal reflection exercise that I hope will help you to envision the pains that our people endured during this time of assimilation. These pains have been felt through each generation since the boarding school era up until today. I'd like you to please imagine living in your current home with your family. One day, a government agent knocks on the door and demands the release of your children, or you will be taken to jail for not cooperating. You and your children are screaming and crying, not knowing what is happening, and the children are forcibly removed by the agent. You don't know exactly where your children are going, and you were told that they were going to a boarding school 4 hours away from your home. You did not get a return date. This happened to all of the children in your neighborhood, and all of the families are distraught. You soon learn that your children could be gone for several years, and the government will notify you of a possible return date. Sometime later, you learn where your children are located, but you are unable to visit or communicate with them. You also learn that your children are kept in a childlike military-style prison. Their physical appearances are being altered, including boys and girls getting their hair shaved completely bald, and they have to wear military-issued clothing. You also learn that your children are forbidden to speak English, and they are severely punished for doing so. They are being taught an unfamiliar religion and being stripped of their Christian beliefs. They are given food that their bodies cannot process and are unhealthy for them. They are being taught in an unconventional learning model that they have never been exposed to, and you cannot see how this learning style is going to benefit them because it's completely opposite of how your children presently learn. You wonder who your children are with and if they're being treated okay. These thoughts are driving you crazy. Your children are being emotionally abused by the adults running the school. Your children are being physically intimidated and physically abused. Some children are being sexually abused in the facility. Some of the children are demonstrating this learned behavior on each other. Your children are not okay. Your children are being traumatized, every part of them. Everything that you've poured into your children, your values, your family history, your culture, your beliefs, everything you value, your children are being told is completely incorrect and wrong. And one day, 2 years later, your children return home. How does this make you feel envisioning this happening to your family? Can you imagine what an experience like this would do to your community? What are some of the ways you and your family would cope with these traumatic experiences? What would it do to the generations to come? I'm trying to get you to process and feel a sliver of what our people had to endure and acknowledge that it did indeed transpire right here in Tacoma, Washington. This happened to the people who resided on this land since the beginning of time. The American disconnect happens when something like this couldn't happen to you. It doesn't directly affect you, and it didn't happen to your ancestors. For those of you listening and watching right now, please know that decades ago, when these interviews were conducted, our elders spoke of you specifically. You were the intended audience. Many elders told me specifically, you better do something with these stories. You need to share these stories. People need to know what happened to us. Our people wanted you to know what transpired here on the Puyallup Reservation. These experiences affected these people and their entire lives. These experiences affected these people's parents, their children, their grandchildren, and their communities. Please do not forget what you learned when you think about our people, when you see our people, when you talk to our people, when you speak to others about our people. We would like to extend our gratitude to the families who shared their stories with us. These short stories were hard for our elders to share. Many of these memories were pushed down deep inside. But these courageous elders felt these stories were important enough to share, and they had hopes that their words would be heard, their experiences felt. Some expressed that their stories were not important or relevant. However, as we went along, we found that many of the same things happened to others, and when all of their stories were woven together, we saw patterns. Some elders said they hadn't told another soul about their experience here on our reservation. We don't take one story for granted. We'd like to honor each story and all the stories that went unheard. We want to honor each family that was affected by what happened on our reservation and each of the following generations that followed. I would like to honor the people who were brought to our reservation, whether it be by force or medical need. While we can't say every child's name who attended, we can say the name of their people. We do this to honor and raise our hands to each life that was affected by these schools and Indian Hospital. Please keep in mind that the documents kept regarding our people were recorded by non-natives, and sometimes derogatory or general terms were used to describe tribal affiliation. We do not wish to offend any tribal community, and we will do our best to recognize the communities that we are aware of. We will start with the farthest tribes first. Alaskan Natives, Inupiat and Yupik. These native relatives were referenced as Alaskan Indians or Eskimo, a term that the first people do not use to reference themselves. Haida Nation, Tlingit Nation, Aleut people. First Nations natives from Canada. These First Nation natives relatives were referenced as Canadian Indians, BC Indians, and Yukon Indians. Now we will honor our relatives east to west, starting with the Pequot Tribal Nation, Seneca Nation of Indians, Shawnee Tribe, Muskogee Creek Nation, and the Cherokee Nation, the Great Sioux Nation, Navajo Nation, Fort Peck Assiniboine Sioux Tribes, Cheyenne Nation, Crow Tribe, Chippewa Cree Tribe, Gros Ventre Tribe, Blackfeet Nation, and the Salish Tribe, Ute Indian Tribe, Shoshone Bannock Tribes, Shoshone Paiute Tribes, Nez Perce Tribes, Coeur d'Alene Tribe, Washoe Tribe, Hoopa Valley Tribe, Shasta Indian Nation, and Pitt River Tribe. Paiute Tribes, Klamath Tribes, Coos Tribe, Siletz Tribe, Rogue River Tribe, Grand Ronde, Umatilla, Walla Walla, Cayuse, Warm Springs, and Wasco Tribe. For our Washington relatives, we will list them starting east of the mountains and then farthest traveling by water. Kalispell, Spokane, Colville, Yakima, Nooksack, Lummi, Upper Skagit, Swinomish, Tulalip, Snohomish, Cowlitz, Chehalis, Quinault, Quileute, Macaw, Lower Elwha Clallam, Jamestown Sklallam, Port Gamble Sklallam, Skokomish, Suquamish, Duwamish, Snoqualmie, Muckleshoot, Squaxin Island, Nisqually, and Puyallup. I would also like to honor each tribe and person that attended these schools or hospital that we did not list, as we do not want to leave anyone out. Asquadi tabutlid chas ba gwalapu si ab as boot boot lachi bi tabutlid chas. We are praisingly grateful to each and every one of you. We lift our hands to you with gratitude. Please know the full immersion ucid video and this accompanying video has not been arbitrarily put together. Each word, perspective, story, and each question has been chosen very intentionally. This very Puyallup-centric presentation of history was very deliberately compiled to make you see us as human beings who have a story to share. By centering our story right here on our homelands, you have to connect to us through geography and specific stories shared. We are trying to make it hard for you to disconnect from us. We've all heard the blanket statements regarding the Native American experience in the United States. These blanket statements still allow for you to detach from our stories. We want you to know that these things occurred right here to our people on the Puyallup Reservation in Pierce County, Washington, and the effects of this history still has an impact on our community today. We thank you for your time, and we mostly thank you for considering personally reflecting on this video, the questions, and broadening your awareness for others in your life. We want to all be seen as human beings, to be acknowledged and to be accepted. If you'd like to dig deeper or would like more time to process these concepts and values, please see the accompanying document that goes with this section covering stories from students, patients, and staff, St. George's Indian Boarding School, Cushman Indian Boarding School, and Cushman Indian Hospital and Sanatorium. Hoya, we are finished.